take a walk with me, not like you used to do. Do something different and put yourself in other people's shoes. Open up your mind and open up your eyes and change your direction, change your perspective.
Welcome into Other People's Shoes. As you know, I am your host, Neil Matthews. Thank you so much for joining me today. Super excited about our guest today. Now, let me set the stage here for you for just a quick second. I don't know about anybody else. When I grew up in school, I'll just be honest, I had some learning disabilities. I remember being in the green group. For those that don't know, that was the group that didn't read so well. I remember having to go to resource room. I remember having to write my spelling words up in the air. I just remember I was learning different than everyone else. And I remember the first time a friend of mine, who shortly after this never became a friend again, made fun of me because I was learning different than everyone else. And it got me thinking, even back then, what makes me so different and why can't people accept my differences? That might have been a little bit of a seed that one day grew into Other People's Shoes. What does that have to do with our guest today? Well, let me tell you this. I don't know anything about autism. I've heard about Autism Speaks. I've heard about autism this and autism that, and kids have autism today, and I don't ever remember any one of my people group growing up having autism. Well, I met this gentleman online, and his name's Sam. And what's interesting about Sam is Sam has autism. What's even more interesting is Sam's 20 years old. So he realistically could be my kid. But I reached out to him, and I wanted to give him an opportunity to come on and walk in his shoes. So help me welcome from the great state of Indiana, Hoosier Nation, Sam. Sam, how are you today?
Hey, man, good to be here. I appreciate you letting me come on, and I'm very excited to talk about autism. And yeah, I feel about going to the resource room. I had to do that, and I was in a lot of inclusion classes myself.
Before we get going into autism and what you're about, and you got your own show too, which I want to give you an opportunity to talk about that too, because I know that's an awesome thing that you're doing over there. Help me with this though, my man. What size shoes do you wear?
Size shoes, small shoes, probably a small. I don't know, I have to look at that. I don't keep track of that. But I'll just tell you that at 18 years old, I was in the men's. And the years before that, I was in the boys.
Do you know the shoe size by chance?
No, I don't.
So help me with this. Maybe you know this one. What brand or style? Do you like wearing like tennis shoes, cowboy boots? What kind of style of shoes?
Tennis shoes. Tennis shoes. Without the laces.
Is there a certain like Nike or Adidas or Reebok or, any of those brands?
It's whatever. As long as it fits my foot, I really don't care.
So help me with this then. We talk about this walk away moment. We've been talking about it for a couple of months now on my show. Why do you think people need to know, one, about autism, and then one thing in particular, like walking away from it? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, it's prevalent, number one, but you can walk away from autism because you can take so much from it. After you heard about it, you can walk away and you can feel like what it's like to be, as you say, in other people's shoes. Because it's not easy sometimes to socialize for us. You take it for granted. It's not easy to make friends. You take that for granted. There's a lot of things that those on the spectrum have a hard time with versus those who do not take for granted, like the socializing, the daily change where they can flip the switch and be like, oh, we're going to Mr. Gaddy's now instead of Subway. Not the easiest thing to do. They can take the way that they don't have sensory issues. We do have sensory issues, and they take that for granted. So there's a lot of things you need to look at, again, versus you thinking, oh, I have the right to this. Because in the end, let's be real here, no one has the right to anything.
Yeah, I like that. Nobody has the right to anything. I don't know anything about autism. Help me out with that. Be my educator. Can you?
I can try.
What is something about autism that most people don't understand or don't even get? I know you talked about the sensory issues stuff and the socializing stuff. I mean, that's some stuff I did know. But again, I don't know enough. How can I best understand if I do interact with someone with autism? What's the best way I can do those things?
I'm going to kind of hit it back with another question. Have you heard of foot and mouth syndrome? Like, basically, it's where you put your foot in your mouth and you don't mean to, and you say something kind of rude or selfish, and that wasn't meant to come across that way.
On the daily basis, even on the show. Yeah, I say things all the time.
Yeah, you get where I'm going.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
But I would say what you can do with that is don't take it personally. And that is something major because there have been times where I've said the wrong thing and next thing you know, they've associated me as the weird kid on the playground. That's not the case. That was not the way it came out. I could have misinterpreted it a little differently than you could have. I could have said it maybe a little differently to make you understand it, but that was the way I knew how to say it. And sometimes we're very blunt. We tell you the way it is. I mean, I think a lot of times, a lot of people, like they say, think before you speak. I speak before I think. So when I speak, I'm like, oh, I probably shouldn't have said that. So I would say not to take it personally because that's something we know what to do. And it's a tool for us to cope with the fact that we can be blunt and not realize it.
I've actually done some research that there's a thing called a verbal processor. So in other words, that they have to hear it, the person has to hear it. And then once they hear it, then they realize kind of what they're saying. They almost have to hear it in real time. You follow me on that?
Yeah.
If I'm interacting with someone who comes to me and says, hey, like you did, hey, I have autism. How should I treat them? How should I interact with them?
Respect, like every human deserves. Probably number one is patience. So if you see us stimming, which is rocking back and forth, flailing our arms, that might be whatever stim we're doing, whatever thing we're doing. Understand that one, it's not out of the moment. It's for a reason. But two, understand it's something we can't help. And you being there, honestly, is something that we need. I've been blunt and honest to my friends before, and they probably looked at me like the weird kid on the playground before. I'll probably admit it. I don't know when. I probably can't think of a time on the top of my head when they have, but they're still there for me regardless. I would say the number one idea is be there no matter what they say. You're the bigger person if you don't take it personally, because I'm telling you right now, for the majority of the autism spectrum, that is not the goal.
Do you remember life before autism?
Life before autism, no, not at all. All I know is I hate a lot of fireworks because I was diagnosed when I was 4 with that. So not much. The only thing I know was I ate peanut. I have a peanut allergy as well. So I ate peanuts and kind of choked on that. Got to go to the hospital. So that's one memory I can have. Another memory is every fireworks I didn't like. Every 4th of July I didn't like fireworks. I always go to the basement of my house to either play Wii Play. That was, the Wii. That was the thing back in the day. And I can't understand because I feel old. Back in the day, it was Wii Play, and I'd always play the tank game.
Yeah, because I just can't even imagine sometimes the challenges that people walk through, because again, I think so often we don't stop long enough to really sit and think about people and think about what's happening in their lives.
Well, now you say that, sorry to interrupt you, but I can just think of one off the top of my head that you can probably know about. I was included in small groups and with friends, but I was never included with big groups and strangers up until this year, which is 2022 at Podfest in May at Orlando, Florida. So I don't know if that's a challenge for you. Abracadabra, there you go.
I think that's a great point, is because as a podcaster, normally you would want to go to things like that. Normally you would want to go to conferences or events and things like that. I hadn't even thought about that, about how much of a struggle that would be for you, man. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, and it's not as much as more. And I go to them for the work, but the socializing is kind of an extra for me. As far as inclusion goes and feeling involved, the first time I felt involved as far as big groups goes was Podfest in Orlando. It's because there was they were genuine and they didn't care where you came from. And I know a lot of people are oh, no matter what conference you go to, they're doing it for they're here for their reasons. That's it. They were there because one, they wanted to be, but two, you could tell that they want to get to know you. And have you heard the phrase blow smoke up, where they're just doing it because out of sincerity and they feel bad for you and all that? That wasn't the case, and you could tell that.
I think that's great, because a lot of times, I think we've all maybe come across it on social media. We see somebody who might have some challenges again. Maybe they're in athletics or something like that, and there's a moment where they kind of stop the game and they allow this person to participate. Maybe they give them the ball, and everyone kind of, especially in football, they kind of part like the Red Sea almost, and they let them have their moment of fame to, run down the field or something like that. And, those are always great for me, but I always struggle with that, because I'm it's great that they gave him that moment. Did they do anything for that person? Have you ever seen those videos? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, what do you think of those?
I'm glad that they're doing it and their heart's in the right spot. I will give credit to that. Problem, though, is it's pettiness. ARAR Corporation does not believe in pettiness. We believe in treating everyone with the same dignity and respect as everyone else. I will give the props that you're doing right and helping them out. So good job there. Why not? It's going to be funny with going with the football. why not try to, I'm not saying push them down, but, go with every other football kid and tackle them.
I think they mean well, and they think, oh, we're doing this amazing thing for this person. Is it really helping them? I just don't know. You mentioned ARAR.
ARAR.
Yeah, ARAR.
So Autism Rocks and Rolls is just the podcast itself. Now, Autism Rocks and Rolls Corporation is the nonprofit. So now we call it ARAR. Go figure out with the board meeting. And that's where I get to do the events, speaking. That's what everything goes through. The money that I have through the nonprofit, through the work I do outside of the podcast is the nonprofit. So the speaking gigs, like I said earlier, being a vendor at certain places, commentating while setting up a booth. I had the privilege of getting to commentate at wrestling events because of pro wrestling, and wanted to do that ever since I was a child. And I got to do it. Nowadays, I think twice or three times. I think twice.
Well, I'll tell you right now, being a fan of pro wrestling, that's pretty amazing.
Oh, it's great, man. You can't complain. It's helped me a lot through the times. May have had a bad week when I turned on the channel of wrestling and got to see these characters, baby faces or good guys, heroes or villains, who are real people and not what you see in the comics. Just fascinated me and stuck with me since, and I haven't quit.
So here's my question for you. What's the best thing about being autistic that maybe most people wouldn't understand or even think about?
That we're creative. They don't understand that there's a creative side to it. We're looking at something very differently. Just because we're staring off at footprints, maybe, doesn't mean we're looking at something and there's something meaning to the footprints. I know to you it might just be a footprint you look at, you just stepped on, but to us, it's something special. And I don't know what it is, granted, but it's something.
I would wonder what it would be like to be you on a daily basis. Some of the greatest challenges, you already kind of talked about some sensory issues, some social issues, some things like that. I know your mom's a big part of your life.
And some of those challenges are hard, but someone's got to do them, I guess.
What do you think life would look like if your mom wasn't a big part of your life?
It would probably be a different story, and it probably wouldn't be as big as it is right now. I'd probably still be doing it, but it'd be a lot more stressful and a lot more work on me. I had to manage both, and that'd be very, very hard. I thought about it before, granted, and I won't lie to you there, but sadly came to the realization that it's not possible.
It's not possible to have her not involved?
It's impossible to not have help with this. The only person I can think of that would work for free probably with the nonprofit is her. That's why I'm trying to mention her, and it will probably be only her. So that's why it's probably would be harder.
Does your dad have a role in anything?
We call him the maintenance man for a reason. He's an electrician. If I won't mind me saying, I won't say way out of his privacy. He's an electrician and he fixes things. Honestly, that's what his job. I think he fixes robots, certain type of robots. So we kind of go to him for advice if we either don't agree on anything or we don't understand something with the nonprofit, because he is more of the math person than we are. We're very English, social studies people. My mother and I, that's something we have in common. But he's a math thinker. He understands like taxes, accounting a little bit more, algebra, all the money stuff, all the money math that we don't get. We're like, what? How did that get there? How did that get there? You divide that? Like what? Okay, I'm lost.
I don't like math either, so I like talking to people more than I like doing math. So help me understand this for a second, this quote.
All right.
It says, it's so simple, yet so complicated. What does that mean to you?
That's what I just said on the podcast, out of the blue and out of the thought, turn out to a big quote. And the reason why I said that is I think it's true, because what might be simple for you might be very complicated for another person. So, for example, I have a friend who is handicapped, and he's been in his wheelchair his whole entire life. Great guy, not complaining. He can't go up the stairs. He's told me before that is that arch enemy, according to him. That's my walking upstairs is complicated for him, but for me, I can easily just go boink, 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 boink. I'm upstairs. With him, he has to either take the elevator or crawl.
So it really is one of those things where you kind of got to put yourself in his shoes.
Yeah, and I've asked him before. I mean, does it bother you that you can't walk up the stairs? And he's like, yeah. But it's whatever, yada, yada, yada. And I know him well enough deep down. It bothers him some days.
Where do you see yourself in like 20 years?
People always ask that, and I always joke around and say, ask me in those time of years and we'll talk again. Like with the podcast wise, I don't know where it's taking me. Tomorrow I could be in somewhere I didn't think of, or I could still be here. But the plan now, though, is for Ivy Tech. I will be in there right now for college. Next year, or college year, I guess, I'm hoping, keyword hoping, to transfer either media or entrepreneurship, highly likely try to get into some with a media degree. And we'll see what happens. You know, I've thought about a couple of jobs, what I want to do with my life, and lean towards it. I mean, we'll see what happens.
When I was 20, I was engaged to get married. When I was 20, I was moving out on my own with my soon-to-be wife. She had already gotten us an apartment. Well, we both had put our name on the apartment, and then we got married a year later.
I have no ring on, so you can definitely say that ain't gonna happen with me at the moment.
But do you see yourself like getting married? Do you see yourself like buying a house, having a wife, having kids?
You know, that's a good question. I've thought about it before. Because of my, I guess, nonchalant personality, I'm kind of whatever at the moment with that. If life entails me getting a job and living in my house or living in the parents' house and I'm paying rent or whatever, okay, then that's fine. I mean, I would rather prefer what you said. If it comes down to it, that's the life. I can live it as long as I'm doing what I need to do, which is getting a job, go make money, supporting myself in some way. That's what I think how you make it here is you earn some money and support yourself. That's what you do. And no matter what it is, I mean, AR believes that if you get a job, no matter what it is, that's success. So celebrities I'm not going to say names, but like celebrities own all these fancy luxuries. Society brings that up and they're like, okay, they're successful. Yeah, you're right. But why are we ignoring them too? We're ignoring someone who goes up, sets an alarm, gets up at 8:45 in the morning to go do something, which is maybe flip patties at Steak and Shake or McDonald's. While you can probably do more, that's something. And I believe that you're doing something. And in the year 2022, we need to acknowledge the working man because for 2 years, we didn't work at all.
You mentioned your mom being part of your team and big part of your life from the sound of it. How do you feel about her? Like when you really sit and think about mom, what comes to mind?
Definitely very similar personalities. Don't get me wrong, I get along with my dad great in a different way, but I think my mom and I are a lot alike, so you can imagine that the two rhinos will clash sometimes. However, we have a lot of similar personality traits. We have a lot of similar beliefs, and we both we like to laugh a lot. That's kind of our trait. I think life's too short not to laugh. We need to laugh more often than we don't.
When I think about my mom and my relationship, I mean, it hasn't always been amazing. It hasn't always been, I always call it Hallmark moments. It hasn't always been Disney Channel, all these somewhat wholesome shows. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Man, that's the same with every relationship, regardless. I mean, whether it's a girlfriend or a friend, you'll have ups and downs.
Guess what I'm ultimately asking is I didn't know if it was different because of having autism. Is it harder to relate to your mom even or no?
Yeah, sometimes. It's harder. It's just hard to relate to someone without the autism spectrum, really, in all honesty. But that being said, I think we know our moral grounds and our standards. So, I mean, there have been times where I've asked her at 9:50 p.m. hey, could you do this? She says no because she has to get up early and she's a teacher. Not relating because I can't. I'm like, sometimes, no, you agree to this. Get your butt up and go do it. I mean, I know it sounds harsh and I've done it before and I kind of chuckle when I think about it, but it's happened before because I cannot relate to that. I thought, hey, but you agreed. I know you have a job. Whoop-de-doo. Good job. Good, great. Literally. I think that because you agreed to do this for me and you should have said no earlier. If you didn't know, or I don't know, because that's an option now, you should do it. Whatever you agree upon, you do it.
I have a friend, his name's Eric. Eric grew up in my youth group. And I remember one night in youth group, we were playing a game, and I can't remember what it was. It's probably a game I made up because I'm notorious for making up games on the spot. And so I, laid out some rules of the game, and we start playing this game by the rules that I've established. And again, this is a made-up game. This isn't a real game. Just literally made it up on the spot. And about midway through the game, I changed the rules.
Oh, you broke his. I get where you're going. You broke his structure pretty bad.
So maybe part of the game was you could hold the ball for like 5 seconds. And now I changed it to you couldn't hold the ball at all. You had to kick it somehow, or you had to pass the ball without using your hands or something crazy like that. Because again, notorious for making up rules on the spot. So how does that feel when people change things for you or switch things?
Oh, it stinks because, in all honesty, we were told this. Now you're changing it on us. That's not how it works. We didn't know I didn't know there were things called Plan Bs, Plan Cs, Plan Ds, and all that until I was a kid. From toddler years, you had to tell me we're going to Walmart, and you had to mean it, or I would have a freak panic attack because in my brain, you lie to me and there was nothing I could really do to change it. I mean, because let's be honest here. I mean, as a child, we probably done some stupid things, probably hit our parents. We probably, done that. Okay. I'll admit it. I've done that. And not now, granted, but when I was younger, I probably did. And those are the times where I did because I'd have a freak attack. And in my eyes, I was mad because you lied. One of the things I didn't like, and I still don't like, are complete liars who do it intentionally. That's something I would always ever freak out because I was lied to and I couldn't really change it. As an adult, I couldn't really no, we're going to Walmart, period, because it's in a society world, kids can't boss around the adults. So the only way I knew how to do and handle it was to have a freak attack and literally just freak out and not understand what was going on, and then my body and my head would shut down. So it was kind of, now looking back at it, in a form of anxiety.
Yeah, Eric would always freak out too. Even to this day, he teases me about that because he's like, "You were mean." I was like, "I wasn't mean. I just changed the rules. I didn't know." So Sam, help me with something else, if you wouldn't mind, bud. If I didn't know you had autism, you quote unquote look normal. You look like I do. You look, there's nothing.
Yep, I get that a lot. And I'll be honest with you, I get this total lie. You wouldn't know unless you live with me. That is 100% truth. Or I say something spur in the moment, or I don't understand something. Because there have been times when I've conversed with others and I said something to where I thought it was part of the conversation, but in reality it wasn't. So then you're like, oh, okay, that I weirded you out a little bit. So that's my point of right there. So you wouldn't know unless I weirded you out. But you also wouldn't know until you live, because I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to lie. I can't drive and I can't cook because it's overwhelming. And I can't really deep clean because of the overwhelmingness. So it's funny that a podcast that I can easily do like a man. But when you put me in front of an oven or a sink, I turn into a boy. It's odd and it's funny, but it's the utmost truth that I don't do that. And, I live with it. I get drove around. I get to eat dinner and may have pre-made packaged food, and it's fine. I'm okay. I'm not down upon it, but it bothers me some days, but it's not where it's like I'm going to go commit suicide or something like that.
I'm imagining too, you've talked to other people that are autistic.
Oh yeah, I got some friends that are on the spectrum, and I think they're a little bit more lower functioning than me, or I have friends that are related to the spectrum field. I know one of my friends, who shall remain nameless, has a cousin, so she kind of understands it a little bit. All of those others are just, they're good friends. They're definitely very supportive. They're good pals.
So you mentioned the spectrum. So help me understand that. Do you know a lot about that? Because I don't. So how severe are you?
It's less severe. So there's lower functioning, middle functioning, high functioning. So lower functioning is like my friend who probably thinks like a 3-year-old, steal your heart off the bat. He stole my heart pretty much. And it's a different friend. The middle functioning is like middle of the road. So I probably have a friend right now who I would determine as a very young lady who acts very mature. When you talk to her, yeah, she's middle of the road, understanding, conversing. Me on the end, very high functioning and just can't cook or clean, can keep myself together while also probably understanding how to put on shoes and doing some daily stuff.
So you mentioned not being able to drive. Is it a choice not to drive, or is it because your autism doesn't allow you to drive?
It's a reason. We experimented with driving and it didn't work out. I was really nervous and I just was too afraid if I crashed, I would kill someone. And to be honest with you, I could not live with it if I did that. Whether it was my fault or not, I couldn't live with it. It would bother me way too much. I'd probably have nightmares over the fact that I caused, or someone caused me to kill someone intentionally or unintentionally. I had to make it a choice when I wasn't progressing, and the choice was I wasn't going to drive. And that was fine, but it does have its days because, let's be real, my mom goes to work and my dad's asleep for his job, and here I am sitting on the couch or doing whatever, bored around the house. And my friends are busy too, or at their jobs, because right now my podcast is my job. So where does that leave me? Answer, I have to be stuck in the house. And while I do sometimes get cabin fever, it's okay, because I'm for the majority keep myself occupied and try to find some work to do to promote the podcast, or to really just keep myself and keep myself entertained. So over the years, as that happened, I've learned to do pretty well at that. And I think because of that, and I had done that previously before my mom before this situation happened, I've always been like a good road, like good person to travel with and a good person to fly with because I keep myself entertained. So I'm pretty good at that. So I don't think you need to worry about me saying, oh, take me here, take me here, take me here, because I'll figure it out here. Or if I want to go bad enough, I'll find someone.
There have been times I haven't been able to drive, maybe because my car's been in the shop or something like that. I can't imagine if I wanted to go somewhere, I couldn't just go somewhere, especially at 20.
Yeah, not easy some days. Not easy some days. I wish I did, and so I can go see my friends more often. You know what we have now? We have an iPhone. I have an iPhone, and I usually text people with it and still talk to them. So, like, it's probably not ideal, but it works.
So you mentioned also cooking. Does it just overwhelm you, or is it nerve-wracking? Like, tell me more about that.
Oh, it's overwhelming because there's too much going on. 1 minute you're scrambling. It's when there's too much going on. So let's say you got bacon in the oven, and now you need to make your eggs. All right, go make the eggs. Well, your bacon's going. Okay, you have to stop it and then switch bacon. I can't work like that. We have to do one at a time. So I can do eggs, thankfully. I had to make the eggs first before I make the bacon. And if it's in the recipe, it says wait. Okay, I'm going to wait. A lot of people, when they cook and it says to wait, they clean up. They clean up their kitchen, their stove, or whatever. However, I had to do it one at a time. So I had to do the bacon first or the eggs first, then the bacon. And whatever that entails, that's what I have to do in order to keep myself focused and basically not losing it. Because then at the moment, I'm just lost and I'm like, well, I'm done. Or I'm done, or I basically screw it up.
So let's talk about your podcast, because that seems like a amazing topic, because I love talking all things podcast. So what's the best part about podcasting for you?
Well, it started to join my high school's media club. And ever since I fell in love with it, I decided to continue my media skills. And that was when Autism Rocks and Rolls was born. What I love about podcasting is the odd duck thing that everyone hates is the editing. I'm like the work guy. Okay, I'm not the only odd duck. Thank God.
I hate editing. It's the worst.
Oh, you hate
I
it?
hate
I'm
it.
sorry.
No, sorry. I didn't mean to misunderstand you or you to misunderstand me. I hate editing.
But yeah, I actually like the work. I mean, it just works with me and you can make conversations flow better. And when you're done, you feel accomplished. You feel, you got rid of the you got rid of the, that I'm saying right now. It just sounds professional. It just sounds like real and like they have a great voice. That's what you want in podcasting, a great voice. Well, I'm going to make that happen for you.
We should talk. I hate editing. When I edit, I usually edit Monday or Tuesday night. My show comes out every Wednesday. I absolutely hate it.
Well, I'll tell you this. I offer editing services.
On your show, you've had a lot of big name people. I'm looking at your list right now. Who is probably your favorite and why?
Oh, Mick Foley for me, hands down so far, because...
Now, you got to help me because I'm not a wrestling fan. Who is that? I know he's a wrestler.
Hardcore legend, takes in a lot of bumps, as wrestling call it, a lot of falls. If you watch his matches, you'll see a lot of blood. You'll see a lot of hardcore, a lot of weapons. The guy's tough as nails. But he's there. He's very intelligent. He's very thoughtful. And he's just a very great gentleman. You could tell he's been married to the same wife because a lot of wrestlers, they'll cheat on their wives. They'll go to the parties. He was different. He was like us. He had a wife. He had 4 kids, one of them being on the autism spectrum, believe it or not. And he, instead of going to the parties and joining the boys, he would go to museums, read books, visit battlefields, basically do other things probably with his family, go to water parks and other stuff. And a lot of wrestlers have stated about him, instead of going to the bars and the clubs, he'd be trying to go on trying to get the last flight to see his family. So that was my thing. That's what really stood out to me. And through experience, he's embraced others, accepting their differences. And we have a lot of similar life beliefs as far as you'd say. Now, my mother's favorite to this day is Temple Grandin because she's probably the biggest autistic advocate out there, done a lot for the agricultural world. So she's done a lot in the animal change, the cow system. It's great. We joke though, because I think I like her. She loves her, but she loves me more. Temple does. So Temple, I like Temple. Temple loves me. Mom loves Temple. Temple likes her.
It's fun doing podcasting though, right? Because you get to meet a whole bunch of different people, right? From all walks of life. That's the best part for me.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've had someone who was I don't remember how old Temple was, but she's in her like 60s or 70s, and that was cool. But then I also had someone, Jacob Velasquez, who was on the spectrum and he has PDD NOS. It was on a couple of years ago, the 2020 season of America's Got Talent. He's 14.
With your podcast and having autism, are there any struggles or challenges that you've had to come through with that?
Probably the time efficiency. So sometimes when I've had celebrities, so a fun fact with Mick, he said we have 30 minutes. And he wasn't mean about it. He didn't say it in my tone of voice. And that came across as harsh, and I apologize for that. He said we have 30 minutes. And in my brain, I thought, oh, no. Because I know myself, if you have a time limit, I will rush it. Because that's just who I am. I mean, you say, okay, Sam, get up at 8:45. It's 8. And this is real. I felt rushed. That's just how it is. You can give me as much time as you want. But the time limit, if you say it's 5:45 right now, okay, do it at 8:45, I'll still feel pressured. So you can't give me a time limit. And I get that it has to exist for this day. So I guess that's one struggle I've had to overcome is accepting the time limits and trying to not feel as pressured as I do. And I'll be honest, I still feel pressure, but it's not as bad. I mean, used to, it was where I would sweat. I would be like, panicky. I think as I've gotten older and as I've gotten more practice with it, I've calmed down a bit. It still exists.
Do something silly together, okay? You okay with something silly?
Sure. Like I said, man, I've done some dumb things. Let's see, I'm the type of person who would sing karaoke.
I've done that too. But I'm wondering about this. Listen, I know there's probably a few parents out there or maybe a few people out there that maybe have encountered someone with autism. But maybe parents, brand new parents, maybe they have babies that haven't yet discovered if their son or daughter has autism yet. What advice would you give those parents right now?
I ask parents the same question. I ask people that the same question who's been related to it, had a parent episode, and I'm going to kind of repeat what she said. And I agree with what she said. She said, and I quote, learn to smile, because you're going to have a lot of people who's going to criticize your parents. If that child's having a sensory meltdown in Walmart, you're going to have looks. You might have an old person say, well, you know what? You should have done this. You should have done this. You should have done this. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. First of all, none of your business. Mind your own. It is not your child. You had your own. I applaud you for raising your children. Don't know how they are today, but it's not yours. So let me do my job as a parent here to help you do your job as a customer at a grocery shop. My own business really is the best thing for them, but for the other parent, it's learn to smile, because no matter what I say with this, you're still going to have people who do it. You can't get mad at them, because if you do, that will just enrage them, and then it'll turn into a big fight. So in my eyes, to avoid the conflict and have peace, learn to smile, pretend, take their eyes, be like, yeah. But in reality, you're ignoring them.
All right, Sam. So where can people go to listen to the show? Where can people connect with you? Where are those cool places?
It's on the website, Autism Rocks and Rolls. So if you go to the homepage where you kind of looked at earlier, that has my media platforms that I'm on. And if you think I'm there, I'm there.
I didn't get an Indiana Hoosiers cup for you. Sorry. I tried to order one. I'm teasing, of course. But I did get, can you see that in the camera there? What is that?
What is that? Yeah, I see. I just don't know what it is. It's a cup, I see, but what cup is it?
It's a North Carolina cup.
Oh, yeah, I'll take it. Thank you.
I'm not giving you my cup. This is my cup. This is very special to me.
I thought you already had one. I'm sorry. I totally misunderstood you.
That's okay. That's right. I was teasing you, so I got to be careful.
Oh,
Sometimes
okay.
I tease too much. Anyway, I
did the same thing. I'm a nice guy, but with my friends, I'll be 100% honest. I'm great to them and all, but I'm a bully to them at the same time. I love them so much that it is
That's
my
probably
rule.
me too.
If I don't
I
mess
probably
around
bully
with
people.
you, I don't love you, or I don't like you. If I don't mess around with you, that means I don't like you.
I do the same thing. That's very weird that we have similar traits. All right, so we're going to do this silliness. It's called Senseless. It's just this silly way I like to end the show. So I have a cup, as you saw, and inside the cup there's a die. And so I'm going to roll it for you, and then I'm going to pick a question based on the number that comes up. All right, it's number 6. So number 6 is this. One person, only one. Don't try to sneak in 2. Don't try to sneak in 3. One person only. One person that you get to spend the weekend with. So the weekend being Friday night to Sunday night. Friday night to Sunday night. Who do you spend the weekend with and what do you do?
Now I can answer that question, and there is only one person. My grandfather. What we do probably is we hang around the fire, maybe work in his shop, and just hang really, because he's a great guy to hang out with. I mean, he's not the type of person that'll steal your heart. You'll definitely have a good time around him.
What about him do you like the most?
His sense of humor. That he likes to laugh a lot. There's a serious side, and he gets life a lot better than I do. Like I have a very troubled time of being when to be funny and when to be serious. Like one of the moments, and he knows that more than I do, so I can learn a lot from that.
I don't know about you, but when I started my podcast, I started making a list of people I wanted to sit with, people that I wanted to interview, people that I wanted to, have a moment with. If I could tell you right now, Sam, you can have anybody in the world, anybody, doesn't matter who would you want to have on your podcast?
Well, I mean, I kind of already had it, Mick Foley. I guess now there's a lot of options, and hard to pick. I guess right now, Gordon Ramsay.
Why?
His mouth, I actually like the foul language. And when he gets pissed, I think it's funny, personally, but it's something it's something I want to do to a lot of people. Let's put it that way. However, do you know that he has a story? He's like that for a reason. Apparently, what I didn't know, and I just went on my show initially because of the mouth, and he was actually had some manners. However, he has a story. He got beat up as a child for his father for something innocent, such as getting a drink of Coke. That, and he's also had to overcome a lot of domestic abuse. He's had to overcome I think he was very poor for a while, and he decided to cook because it was his way of getting out. So he found an outlet, and I admire that in him personally.
Hey, Sam, thanks for coming on today. I appreciate you being on. I really appreciate you giving me some moments today.
Not a problem.
Well, guys and gals, kids and campers alike, that is it. That is all. That is our show today. So here's my question for you. Have you ever interacted with somebody with autism? Now, I know there's a lot of great movements out there. I'm thinking of Autism Speaks. There's a month out of the year that we take and we kind of celebrate and we kind of try to understand autism. But I think Sam said it pretty well. You wouldn't know that somebody had autism unless you probably really started interacting with them. So here's my question today before we go, and that's this. Who is the most challenging, perhaps, or the most little bit different, little bit maybe odd, maybe a little bit, not in your mind normal. And I chose your mind, normal. And what does normal mean anyway, really? I mean, truly, I don't know. But my question is this. When is the last time you sat and just tried to understand maybe where somebody was coming from? When is the last time you sat and had a conversation and said, you know what? Tell me a little bit more about that you've walked through, that you've experienced. When's the last time you did that? Just curious. And again, before we jump on out of here, remember this. Do not forget, remember, when you walk in other people's shoes, you really do get a different perspective on life. Thank you so much for listening. Stay tuned till next week when we walk in other people's shoes.